Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob? I mean,
It's
some of you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tammy Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tammy Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. If you are a returning listener, as always, thank you so much for sticking with me. And if you are brand new to this podcast, welcome and thank you for being here. And today is going to be a really, really special one. I cannot wait to introduce my guest. We go way back in kind of a really cool way. Like the universe totally connected us. And here we are years later, sharing our stories. And so the reason I wanted to have Susan on here was, again, she shared her story with people that I worked with before because it's so powerful. And she's doing such amazing work to help people that, like, I've got to have her on here to share her story. But recently, it's been really interesting. Again, ever since Krista's episode, when we talked about sexual assault, and I mentioned to you guys in the week after that of how I realized, whoa, I need to get out of my own way. I need to start having resources for people because these episodes are getting pretty deep. They're getting pretty triggering, and I want to have resources. And so I had been reaching out, to places that deal with addiction and recovery and childhood trauma and all of these things, and trying to, lock arms with these people and these companies in order to provide more resources for all of you that are listening. And interestingly enough, I did a presentation last week with a group of realtors, actually. And I knew, oh my God, I'm going to trigger them because I'm sure, a realtor conference, they're not generally talking about childhood wounds, but here I come, me and little Tam Tam, just trotting along and ready to expose some wounds for all of you. And oh my goodness, it filled my cup so much. And the women that came up to me afterwards blew me away, to the point where I was in tears with one of them afterwards as she was sharing her story and telling me that she has been in recovery, for 20 some years. She's done some inner child work, but hasn't really taken action on it. Like, she has the awareness, which a lot of us do. We have awareness like, yeah, I had a pretty messed up childhood, or, oh, I'm starting to have some awareness that maybe there were some wounds, even though I grew up in the Leave It to Beaver family. Like, no wonder I'm a perfectionist, a control freak. Right? We're starting to become more aware. And that is literally one of the main goals of this podcast, is just to open our eyes. But what her thing was, she's like, I really haven't taken action on that yet. And then another woman came up to me afterwards, and she's been in recovery for 30 years and was talking to me about Al-Anon and being a part of these programs and sitting in, and how, hearing these family stories might be really helpful. And I was just blown away. I'm like, okay, I am being guided in a certain direction here. I can feel that. And then all of a sudden I was like, I need to have Susan on this podcast. I need to have her on this podcast so she can share her story and let this be a start of something amazing and beautiful, and to really help reduce the stigma around addiction. Because, man, when you look at it from a childhood wound perspective, you will meet it with a whole lot more compassion, a whole lot more compassion. And so I see that she is here in the waiting room, and I know we are going to have a full-blown conversation. And so I'm going to keep this short and sweet. So I will be right back to welcome her. So hang on. We'll be right back. All right. I am back with my guest, Susan, and she is beachside, giving me all the FOMO right now. And those of you that are listening, you can't tell that she is literally on the beach in a chair full of sand, just soaking up the sun. And I'm totally jealous. So
You are not the only one today.
oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. It's feeling such good, feel good vibes. So to share our little story, we were just kind of recapping about how we met, because truly this is how cool the universe is when it connects people. And we all truly are connected, but there are certain souls that you are destined to meet. And I was definitely destined to meet Susan because we both were using supplements through a company called Isogenics. And, they have like their Facebook group and all these things, and they have events and stuff like that. And so you had mentioned that you went to an event and then saw my Facebook profile pop up of like people you may know, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so,
And so I friend requested you. There was something about your vibe that attracted me. I didn't know what it was then. And I think I even sent you a message while we were there, but we never could link up while we were at the event. And so from that point on, we just kind of followed each other's journey. And then you were named Ice Body finalist in like mid 2020?
Yeah, it was actually
maybe
April.
spring.
April of 2020. Yeah.
Spring 2020. So I watched that whole thing unfold, and I was in the same mindset of trying to do the same thing. And then I got the call to be an Ice Body finalist in, I think, September or October of 2020. So that just kind of really glued us a little bit more together and gave us a chance to spend some time like one-on-one, which was really cool.
It just gave me so many goosebumps because one thing that I love about our story is, and this is like one of those like women supporting women, just cheering each other on in our journeys. We didn't even know each other, but it was like, again, you're right. Your vibe kind of attracts your tribe, right? But how cool to just see a woman trying to better herself, putting in the time and the energy and the investment in herself, and to have another woman that doesn't even know her to be cheering her on the sidelines. When there very well could be women in your life that you've known your entire life who are not doing that for you. And
right.
So it's so special when you find those people. And I just, some people poo-poo social media. And I was like, I have met some of my best friends, some of my soul family through social media. And you are one of those people. Like we were definitely destined to meet. And so, yeah, it was so cool that, again, we were both just cheering each other on. I became a finalist. And so what that means for people that don't know what the Ice Body finalist is you basically submit your before pictures. And then like every 16 weeks, you can submit your progress pictures. And then if you want to write an essay about your journey, they select finalist. And I might have shared this in one episode, is that I wasn't taking it seriously until some of my friends were like, when are you going to be a finalist? And I'm like, yeah, no. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to like write a legit essay and kind of share my story. And then sure enough, I got that call. Which smack dab in the middle of COVID though, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, that was a little challenging.
Like you want to be grateful, and this sucks because they usually have these huge events where you got to be on stage and like Rolls Royce treatment and all these things. And it was not that. So it was like the coolest thing and also the most disappointing thing all wrapped in one. But truly, when you got called too, it was like, oh my God. I mean, out of how many? 14,000 people? You and I were in the same group. Like, really? Come on, universe. Like, that's crazy.
15 out of 14 or 15,000 of us.
Yeah. Like, oh, I got goosebumps again. Just, I love stuff like that because you can't make that up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
and the world is full of those things that you just can't make up if your eyes are open to it.
Yes. So true. And we do have to be awake because the universe and God are sending you signs and signals. And that's why another reason we connect is because I know you love those too. But you're right. They're all around you. And the people that are meant to cross paths with you are walking right by you. You just got to like wake up and look up.
Yeah.
Well, and what was so special was that when we finally did get to kind of have that cool treatment back in 2022, they took us to Orlando. We got to go on stage and, go out to dinner and stuff like that. Like, I really got to know you and your daughter because you brought your daughter. And it was such a special thing to witness the bond that you two have, but just to learn more about you and your story. And it just felt like our friendship kind of strengthened even since then. And now gotten into like some of the inner child stuff and watching you really like tap into that over these last couple years has been really beautiful, and taking your healing journey to really what seems like another level to where you're able to support yourself in a totally different way.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
just like these journeys, I pictured my peak being when we did the ice body and like when I was working for that. And then when it happened, like you said, it was incredible and disappointing at the same time. And it's just like, I didn't necessarily realize that I wouldn't be here forever.
Right. You want to just be able to like press pause, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And
I'm at
like,
my peak fitness, press pause, and
yes.
ride out the rest of my life like this.
And it's like, when I'm up here, it's like, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And then life throws you another wave and you're like, oh, okay. And then, I kind of have to find my center again, but
Yeah. Well, and you
I'm
can share that
grateful.
because I definitely want to, whether we come back to this or even touch on a little bit and why you're at the beach right now, because life did throw you a little bit of curveball. And again, because of this work, like you're supporting yourself in a very different way than maybe you would have years ago.
Absolutely. So I'm in Sarasota, Florida, visiting my daughter because she lives here, which is incredibly amazing that if she's got to live somewhere away from me, I get to come to somewhere beautiful like this
Yeah.
to visit her and to get some time on the beach because I feel like the ocean is healing, the salt water is healing. It's very
Totally.
peaceful and serene. I got on up and came to the beach this morning for the sunrise and just I don't know. I like to do a morning routine that allows me to do some prayer and meditation and like center myself and connect to everything because I didn't have that for so many years.
Yeah.
But just this scenery to be able to do that is just like, ugh, I love it.
And the morning routine, I think that is so important. And, mine just used to be working out, but now it's become so much more. We're like taking that time to just center myself. It really sets the tone for the day. And now it's because I feel like that's my time where I'm really quiet with just me. Because once the day starts, a million other people and things are calling at your energy.
Yeah.
And your inner child is like, yo, you didn't even say good morning to me. And so that's kind of my way of being like, I got you, girl. Like, don't you worry. I got you first.
Right.
So,
I feel much less likely to throw those inner fits if I'm grounded and connected to me and to a higher power, like
yes.
knowing where my source of strength is. And, I know that there's a lot of different paths to a higher power. And I've learned over the last several years that whatever it is for you doesn't matter. Like I get to live my belief and I get to allow you to live yours and so on. Which is something that's, there's just been a lot of enlightenment over the last 10 years.
Oh
So
my God.
I was started to say like I'm on the beach because I had a surgery like 6 weeks ago, and it was my second surgery to deal with an issue that made me feel very broken,
Yeah.
and alone. Um, a lot of people don't talk about the fact that women deal with pelvic organ prolapse, and
Yes.
if you're going through it, you know what it is. And if you don't, then you may not know what it is. But basically, you know, I can remember hearing like once or twice in my life, do your Kegels, do your Kegels. And I
Yep.
ended up having a 9 pound, 5 ounce baby and a 9 pound, 6 ounce baby. And then I went through years of active addiction. So nothing really mattered. I wasn't following any suggestions of anything to do. Like one thing mattered.
Right.
And everything else was a chop on the chopping block. But I got clean June 27th, 2014. So I just celebrated 10 years clean.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Big milestones that I never
Yeah.
imagined that I could hit or felt worthy of.
Yes.
And that was the big thing too. It was like feeling like I was worthy of being clean and recovery and the life that I live today. I could not have even imagined possible, much less that I would be living it.
Right.
Um, so I got clean in June 27th of 2014. And like my first 3 years, I was in treatment of some sort, like between a treatment center, drug court, halfway house, 3/4 house, just like all of these things that I didn't know that I needed, but the universe knew that I needed to like sit my ass down
Yeah.
and just be
Yeah.
and work on some behaviors and things that I couldn't see in myself that other people could, and give me some structure in life
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So, when it happened, I was in New York and my kids came back to Oklahoma where their dad was. And the reason that I was in drug court is because I knew that I needed something over my head because I didn't feel worthy of being in recovery if I didn't have them. So that helped kind of give me some accountability.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say at about 3 years, I moved from New York back to Oklahoma to be with them. And it was just like after a certain period, I started having these little epiphanies. Like, if I'm going to stop doing heroin and crack cocaine, then I probably should take a look at the other self harming behaviors that are happening in my life.
Yeah.
And so, when I was about 4 years clean, I stopped smoking cigarettes on Christmas of whatever that was, 6 years ago. And I started paying attention to what I was putting in my body. And I also started going to the gym because
Yeah.
food became a substitution.
Yes.
I used food to not feel. And when I look back at my life, I was using food way before I was using drugs
Oh,
to
right.
not feel.
Absolutely.
I was in a marriage that I wasn't happy in, but I didn't know how to communicate my unhappiness. I
Yeah.
expected him to just know. I would get resentments, and it was just like, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Right.
So I was using food and, of course, the self-loathing that came along with that. Like, when I looked in the mirror, I hated who I was. And of course, that only got worse as I used the drugs. But when I was about 4 years clean, I started with the smoking and the learning how to eat healthy because I didn't know that.
Right.
Something at the grocery store says low fat, but it's got a ton of other hidden stuff in it, or it's
Right.
higher in carbs. It's like you're trading one for the other unless
Yeah.
I'm really doing cold food. So I started meal prepping and I can even look back on my photos from the beginning of the meal prep to where I'm at, where I can meal prep now. And just that evolution of that journey is wild.
Yeah.
But also, going into the gym and admitting that I don't know anything and asking for help and doing group trainings. And so my daughter started going with me way back then.
Yeah.
And she started to get a love for fitness and nutrition. And so that's what she does here in Florida. She's a personal trainer. And I think
Mhm.
she's probably got 30 or 35 clients that love her just as much as I do. Yeah. So I don't know. Just the whole journey that I've been on as I've been clean is probably some of the biggest gifts that I could give to her.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And to allow her to see you doing the work. And that, again, you are worthy of those things as well, because what better way to teach your daughter that she's also worthy than to prove it yourself?
Yeah.
And I love that you had mentioned this happens in layers. And so regardless of where you're starting on your journey, and for me, I wasn't working through drug addiction or alcohol addiction, but there was certainly food and coping, and exercise was my way of numbing and coping back then. But that was kind of the gateway of just so desperately needing to feel better because it was impacting my everyday life. I was falling asleep in the middle of the day and I was telling my daughter nap stories and I was drifting off because I couldn't stay awake. And, my gut health was such a mess that I was in pain all
Hmm.
the time. So it was it was impacting my everyday life. So I got to the point where something has to change. And that was my gateway to finally realizing I'm worthy enough to take this step to invest in myself to get that brown box and start that nutrition system or to get
Hmm.
a gym membership. There was just this little step, this little inspired action that started to lead to more and more, where all of a sudden then I felt oh, I am worthy of feeling good. And now now that I know I know what it's like to feel good, I want to keep feeling good. So you're right. You start to look at some of the other things.
Yeah.
And then it trickled over into my career where I was well, this isn't lighting me up. I'm worthy of a career that lights me up. And, and it just, and, getting into relationships and all these things, But then you find childhood wounds, and I was like, oh, there's a whole other depth of worthiness here.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the work that we both have really, really been doing over these last few years is, yeah, you realize I'm worthy of being clean. I'm worthy of, like feeling good, but also like I am inherently worthy of living a beautiful life and all that God has to offer. Like that's next level. And that's required
Yeah,
next level work and commitment, right?
for sure. I've got a quick little story for you because
Yeah.
you kind of brought that up. So, uh, I am getting married in 33 days.
Oh my gosh. 33
33
days.
days. Yeah. Jamie and I
Oh,
are getting
that's
married
just
in
powerful
33 days.
number.
Yes. On October 20th of 24. And we went back and forth as to whether we were going to have a big wedding with our people because we have a lot of people in our lives.
Yeah.
Like we're going to share that moment, or we're just going to do something with his family in the backyard. Are we going to go away to like a destination?
Yeah.
And he's 51. He's never been married. His mom is 84. And I was like, there is no way we're going somewhere where your mom cannot witness this. So
Yeah.
we ended up deciding to do it near home because I want her to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And so I was talking about getting like a $200 dress off of Amazon, something simple and inexpensive
Mm-hmm.
because don't have, I don't have the means personally to do it big. She wasn't having it. She said, you go to the dress shop, you find a dress and you don't worry about the money.
Oh.
And it was so hard for me to accept that, like internally. And I
Yes.
found myself at this beautiful dress store trying on the most amazing gowns, looking at the price tag and feeling guilty because she wanted to do this for me. And I didn't feel like I was worth it. And I didn't realize it so much in the moment.
Yeah.
But afterwards, it was like I was unable to connect emotionally to that moment and really feel the joy and the happiness and the worthiness of like being in that dress in that moment.
Yes.
So those kind of aha moments come
Oh
still
my goodness.
all the time.
Well, and this is what ego does to protect us, right? Because it's like, you're not worthy of that. That's been the message you've received your entire life. So why would you be
Yeah.
worthy of this now? And so, in order to block you from that and getting your hopes up, you're right. It kind of dulls the experience. It doesn't let you fully live in it and fully experience it to all like the joy and happiness that it's meant to be. And so, for you to catch that and be like, oh my goodness. And what ego also does is it denies people of giving us a gift. Like our
Right.
inability to receive was denying a gift your mother-in-law was trying to give you.
Do you know what do you want did do you know what finally broke it for me? Like made me realize what I was feeling in the moment is I'm FaceTiming my daughter and I show her the dress and she's like, oh, we had two of them that we were looking at and she's like, I really like this one. And she said, I was thinking I could wear it one day, Mama. And I was just like,
Okay.
she's worthy of it. Why am I not worthy of it?
Oh,
So it was just,
girl, you are making me cry over here.
yeah, it's just one of those things that happen in the moment to help me realize this is really what's going on.
Yeah.
So I got the dress.
You got the dress. Oh my goodness.
I got the
I can't
dress.
wait to see this.
I cannot wait. We're having a beautiful party of a wedding with like 215 of our closest people. And it's going to be a very magical and incredibly emotional day, I think, for most of us that are going to be there.
Oh, I'm freaking crying.
And my parents died
Yeah.
before I got clean. My dad died when he was 55, and my mom died 9 months later when she was 53.
Ooh.
And so I was, doing all the preparations for the wedding and got to like feeling like this deep sadness because I don't have anyone to walk me down the aisle.
Yeah.
And then I got this quick recollection of a guy that was a big part of my journey getting clean and the 12-step fellowship that I'm a part of, that I've kept in contact with through all these years. He lives in North Carolina with his wife now. But I just asked him, I said, I know that to save the date if you wanted to come to the wedding, but would you walk me down the aisle?
Oh my gosh.
And so it's just wild how the universe, the higher power, the relationships with people will fill the empty places if I allow it.
If you allow it.
Mhm.
Oh, right there. Like pause. Rewind, everyone. If you allow it, the people are there, the gifts are there, the blessings are there. If you allow it, well, we have to get our protective ego out of the way so we can understand that we are worthy. And sometimes it needs to come through a message like that. And God, I don't think I have cried this much on an episode yet. Not running. Luckily, most of you are listening, not watching on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Well, and I love that you mentioned, like, it clicked for you when your daughter said, maybe I can wear this someday. And you thought, oh my gosh, if she's worthy enough, why not I?
Yeah.
And that's how our inner child feels every single time we do that to ourselves. And for parents, like when we do those things for our kids, but we won't do it for ourselves, that's how your inner child feels every single time. Well, why isn't it good enough for us? Why can't we take care of us like that? Why can't we love and support ourselves like that? Like your inner child is with you all the time. And so for you to have that and like hopefully keep that in your head more and more and more. So it's like this daily consciousness that you have that, yes, I'm worthy of all of these things because my inner child is right here. And I know that she's worthy of those things too. And we're going to have one hell of a party.
Yeah. Listen, I either tap into the unworthiness, the lack mentality, the not good enough, and I stay stuck there and live in self-pity and blame
Yeah.
and just a really dark place, or I tap into the worthiness, the relationships, the lessons, the
Yeah.
spiritual awareness, the abundance. I I just saw a little lizard walking on a branch. I love lizards. Sorry, I got distracted.
So it's perfect.
So I was walking on the beach a few mornings ago, and to bring this story back because I got distracted. I'm on the beach because I had surgery a couple weeks ago for the pelvic organ prolapse. It was the second surgery that I had to have, and so I got to spend this incredible 11 days just relaxing with my daughter and doing nothing. And then when she's at work, I have her car. I'm on the beach. I'm meeting a couple friends that I've made here, and just doing nothing but allowing my body to heal. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm on the beach. But a few mornings ago, I came to the beach for the sunset and to do the sunrise, to do my morning routine. I'm like walking the beach and I'm looking at the crabs and the seagulls and just all of the beauty that's around me. And I'm kind of walking along where the tide has come up. You can see where
Yeah.
the sand is wet. And I look down and there's $100 bill that had just washed in from the shore. And
Interesting.
so the interesting story is like, my short-term disability has been approved, but it won't kick in until mid-October. So like just not living in a place of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be okay.
Yep.
Into like, it's going to be okay. I'm taken care of. Everything is all right. And I walk up on that and I'm like, what?
Wow.
So just
Again,
things like that.
if you
If I'm aware.
if you're aware, if you have your eyes open and you are present in the moment, those things are all around us.
And sometimes people laugh because I'll look down and I'll see a penny and
Yeah.
I'll pick up the penny anytime.
Yeah.
Penny,
Same.
nickel, quarter.
Yep.
And I tell people, like, if I'm not grateful and taking care of like that penny that's put in my path, how do I ever expect anything
Right.
more
Yes.
if I'm just going to walk over that because it's not enough for me?
Uh-huh.
But I also feel like, pennies appear when angels are near, feathers appear when angels are near. So those kind of things help me remember my mom too.
Yes.
Mom and dad. I was laughing because I came over to this spot.
Oh, stop it. Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you that are listening, she's holding two feathers right now. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Mm.
Like, I don't, again, I don't push my beliefs on anyone, but I'm like, how you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
And if we were to look around, like, it's so important for us to feel connected to something. Otherwise, it's really easy to get detached from life, from ourselves, from our
Detached,
experience.
isolated, withdrawn, depressed.
Yes. And that's when you go further down this hole of like, and needing to turn to things like, and having that codependent relationship, because it's like we all crave and need connection.
Yeah, we do.
But when we distance ourselves, the only thing you have is that codependency on the thing, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's, it becomes like food was like my best friend, but she was also the bitch who stabbed me behind the back.
Yeah. Food, alcohol, drugs,
Yeah.
shopping,
Yeah.
relationships.
It's all trying to like fill that void when really all we need is connection. But that can be so scary to your ego who has learned no, safetyness is detaching, because if we try to
Mhm.
get close, we get hurt. And so, addiction in some of its simplest forms is just that, like it's trying to connect to something. And I know you can speak so much more to this. And let's go there because you've kind of shared, some of these things that have come up in your adult life and what you're still working through. But let's go back so people can understand like where this even all started for you and why these things are things that you're still working on or things that you have been through, because it goes all the way back to your childhood experience.
Yeah. So I was born in New York and raised there at least part of the time. For as long as I can remember, both of my parents used some kind of substance, and it was usually alcohol daily, and marijuana. And I can remember us living in like this trailer on a good amount of land. We had horses, we had chickens, we had a garden. But like at the end of the trailer was like these pot plants that were growing, and I can remember and probably have pictures somewhere of us standing by the plants, like when our teeth fell out, and just like it's just like
Yeah.
feeling like that was the normal.
Right. Talk about
And
conditioning. Like that was just the norm.
that was just the norm. And then like at some point in the school year, there was a CPS report that somebody made, and of course, out of fear of being taken away from my parents, I lied for them and kept their secrets.
Yeah.
Didn't really understand. And of course, I can remember my parents being so mad that it even happened and trying to figure out who made the report and all of this. But, you
Right.
know, I just, I always say that I was taught love out of fear, not
Yeah.
respect out of fear, not love.
Yeah.
Um, and my father used a lot of intimidation when I was growing up. But it also it 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 helped me to learn how to manipulate them. So it gave me some skills to try to manipulate to get my way. Early on, I can remember um, a very young childhood memory of being, I don't know, maybe 4 or so in the grocery store and asking my dad for some makeup, like the fake little makeup at the grocery store, and him telling me no and no and no, and just like
Yeah.
throwing this fit and be like, "Don't you know how to make your daughter happy?"
Mm-hmm.
And I got the makeup.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, but some of those coping skills were the things that I learned early on. And I remember there being some infidelity in the marriage. I don't remember the exact scenarios, but I knew that there was a lot of unhealthiness and unhappiness in my household. And when I was 10 years old, my grandparents decided to leave New York because they wanted to retire in Oklahoma. And they found this house um, in Howe, Oklahoma, which is a tiny little town. And they didn't find one, but they found 2 houses right next door to each other. And so they talked my parents into moving with them. And of course, loaning them some money to do the things. And so even in the grandparent unit, there was unhealthiness and just a lot of friction because my parents didn't get the money paid back like they were supposed to, and that made my
Yeah.
parents fight more, and it was not a healthy environment. Um, and so my sister and I tried to get away, like by going to church and doing some things like that. And
Yep.
I remember this year that my sister was going to church camp, and my mom and dad worked with someone um, who's gone through marital problems, and she ended up coming to stay with my mom and dad, my sister and I, with her 2 kids. Um, so long story short, like all of the kids but me went on this vacation Bible school for like a week. So I stayed at home. I think I was too old for the age groups that were going or something like that. And so this lady was staying at our house, and like she started drinking with my parents. And anytime she got back, my mom would say, "Give me your keys." And one night I was laying in my bed, and I don't know what it was that told me to get up, but something told me to get up. So I got up and I started to walk into the kitchen because my bedroom was right off the kitchen. And I could see into the living room, and my dad and this woman were on the couch doing the things that were not conducive to a marriage. And I was just in shock and disbelief and betrayal and confusion. And I pulled the door shut and I went back to bed. And of course, he heard me and he came in. And of course, I'm like, "You tell mom or I will." And
Which takes so much courage as a kid. Like that was your intuition, like all of that speaking up before it got shut down, right?
it got shut down. And
Yeah.
I was intimidated. He said, "Well,
Yep.
if you're going to do it, get your fucking ass up in there and go right now." Sorry for the language.
Okay.
But I, of course, withdrew, curled up in my bed in a little fetal position, and cried myself to sleep. And over the course of the next week, I caught them another 2 times. And then there was one day where they were going to get something to eat. And I got ready to go with them. I wanted to go. We're going to Sonic to get whatever. And I was left in the little middle of the living room floor. And after they left, my mom was like, "I know you wanted to go, sis, but they're probably out messing around." And I broke down and I told her the truth. And so, of course, the house exploded, and my dad came home and told me, "I'm going to F and kill you." And I don't know to this day if he meant it or if he didn't, but what I know is that it affected me deeply.
Yeah.
And over the next several years, like my mom and dad ended up splitting up, even though they tried to make it work. Um, I internalized a lot of guilt for breaking the family up.
Oh
We
my God.
moved to California to be with my mom's uncle, some like my great uncle, and we were there just a few months. But my mom's drinking took off so heavily, much
Well, she's
more
in
than it
so
was
much pain
before.
too, right?
She was in so much pain. And she would wake me up every morning at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I quickly became almost a parentified child. Like
Oh yeah.
I was assuming the role of taking care of her.
Yes.
And we ended up, after a few months there, and my sister not being happy, like her asking, "Can we go to New York where dad is?" So it was just this big
It's a lot of
shift
change.
of where we were living, and like, was it running away from problems to like running to something, and just a lot of geographical change.
Yeah.
And with that came a lot of adjustment because you're in one area and it's one thing, and you go
Right.
somewhere else and it's a complete cultural shock.
Yeah.
And I was really, really unhappy in California. And I'm typically a straight A student, and I was doing my best to hold a C for months while we were there, just because I was exhausted and so unhappy and confused, and I don't have the slightest clue in the moment how to verbalize any of this, much less do I think it would be heard if I said it. I learned very early, or at least I told myself the stories very early, that my feelings didn't matter.
Right.
they didn't matter.
It wasn't
So
even
like
safe to feel them, right?
just suck it up and keep it moving.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how much damage that was causing to me
Yes.
in the long run. And so my, my mom ended up finding a guy that had just gotten out of jail, and like they drank heavily every day, and I was unhappy with them in New York, and I ended up calling up my dad in Oklahoma, and I thought the grass would be greener on the other side. And I got there, and they were doing some heavy drugs and had an 8-month-old child that I quickly became like the second mother of. And it's just like, can I get a break?
Like, where in any of this is your innocent childhood? Nowhere.
Right.
Literally nowhere to be found.
Right.
Ever.
So I ended up, my sister was dating a guy, and I ended up kind of jokingly, seriously saying, does he have a brother? Where's my out?
Yeah.
And
right?
and it's really shitty to say this, but this is where I've come in my journey, is realizing like that relationship was my first real escape from life and reality.
Yeah. Excellent.
And I tried as hard as I could to make it work
Yeah.
with what I was given in life.
Yes.
I didn't understand what happiness was. I didn't understand what communication was. I didn't understand what a healthy relationship looked like.
Zero example of any of those things.
Yeah.
Zero.
So we had Dustin when I was 20, and we had Sydney when I was 22. I got married at 16, by the way.
Yeah.
So I finished high school, went into nursing school, and became an LPN when I was 18. Like right at 18, I took my test. And then after I was working for a while, ended up getting pregnant on an accident because I was home with a broken foot after a car accident. But we had my son when I was 20. Beautiful, beautiful baby boy. And this is the period in my life where I'm using the food to not feel, because I'm constantly being accused of cheating. It's like the one value that I held dear because I saw what it did to my family. I was being second guessed on. And no matter how much I tried to give reassurance and all of that, eventually what happened over the years was I just became more and more resentful.
Yeah.
And Sydney was born when I was 22. She's 23 now. Can you imagine?
No.
You don't have any. I have 2 grandbabies. My son has 2 little boys. You see my camera moving. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Yeah. The iPad watches me move. I don't know. Anyway,
Too
it
funny.
distracted me. So had Sydney when I was 22, and constantly being accused of cheating. And when I got the thought in my head of like, F it, I might as well, and being accused all the time, it was like, oh no, my happiness is worth more. The kids' happiness is worth more. So I ended up asking for a divorce.
Yeah.
And along that route, like my life was so unmanageable already. And the fact that I had been using credit cards, also like buying things, trying to fill the emptiness inside, and like all of the external things, the food, the shopping. And we ended up declaring bankruptcy. And I can remember starting to have these headaches. And right now, I know that I have migraines and I have proper treatment by a neurologist. But back then, when I was 24, they were very quick to hand me a prescription for narcotics.
Yeah.
And the narcotics fixed everything.
Yeah.
I loved me, and I loved you, and the world was great, and it was a beautiful rainbow, and it was all good until it was time to take the next one.
Right.
And so what I quickly found with that is that there was never enough. I went to the doctor, I think 3 separate times for prescription. And the third time I looked at it, and I remember thinking to myself, like, this is not enough. So not knowing what I was getting myself into, I just changed the number of the prescription. This is before they had them put, the number, quantity, and words behind it. Like, I just changed the number.
Yeah.
But the pen that I had was different. I had to do some extra tracing, and And I should have followed my intuition, like, just don't do this, but I had to have the next one. So I took it to the pharmacy and I waited until after 5 o'clock. Me and my smart little self thought, well, they can't call the doctor then.
Yeah.
And I turned in the prescription and they called me back up and they're like, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. We have to call the doctor on this. And I was like, oh my God. I never went back for the prescription, but like a day or two later, I had the detective at my door. And I had obtained a felony charge for attempting to obtain a controlled substance by fraud. And I had to self-report to the State Board of Nursing, and I lost my job and had no direction in my life and felt like, well, I've already effed it up. Might as well see what else is out there.
Right.
And so, I just went on this spiral of trying different things because this makes me feel okay, but like I'm looking for this.
Right. I want to feel real good. I want to
Yeah.
check out of this.
So it's always been that way for me. Like oblivion was preferable
Yep.
than dealing with life on life's terms. Like let me just escape it any way I can and just be totally unconscious.
Yeah.
And live in this eternal state of self-pity and blame. Like if you had been through what I had been through, you would do this too. And like I'm not hurting anyone, I'm just hurting myself. And those are some of the biggest lies that I told to myself.
Right.
I had no idea how much harm.
Right. Like it'll say those things. And this is like such a, I don't want to say beautiful example, but you know what I mean? Of like the lengths ego will go to, and all to protect little Susan, right?
Yeah.
We cannot let her feel this pain. We need more of those feel good pills, and I will do anything to get them because I need to protect her. Like when you look at it from that lens, like your ego was willing to do anything, and it ended up with a felony charge and it ended up losing your job. And like, that's the unfortunate part when ego goes to the extremes, is that it ends up hurting us.
Yeah.
And those people around us, when really all it was trying to do was protect little Susan. Because of course, as a kid, you don't have a lot of defenses as a kid. So one of the main defenses is, I need to check out. I need to find a way to dissociate and get the hell out of here. And so we literally can like escape our reality.
Daydream, fantasize.
Yeah. And now you have substances to help you do that? Oh, heck yeah. That's way easier because we lose our imagination as we get older. So why don't I tap into these other things here? And it's all an effort to just not feel that pain. Oh, my heart goes out to you. Wow.
Yeah. I can remember like consciously thinking, I don't want to turn into my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, oh, if I just avoid the alcohol and try a little bit of this, ultimately I ended up in the same place.
Right.
I caused a lot of harm to my kids. And of course my other family too. My mom, I didn't have a real close relationship with my dad. I did when I was in my early 20s, maybe. But after that, it really, we just didn't have a close relationship for several years. But I caused a lot of pain to my mom, my sister, both of my kids, several friends that had to just back away because they couldn't just continue to, I don't know. I always say the end of the line for me when it was in 2014 is my kids walked away from me. They called the boyfriend that I was with at the time sister, and they wouldn't come home. And I knew I didn't have a leg to stand on. And ultimately I just got in this place where I hated myself so much I wanted to die.
Yeah.
And I went on a mission for the next 2 weeks to try to make that happen. And one of my last memories of that life was like laying in a fetal position in the corner of a dirty crack house, having just talked to my daughter and her telling me, I hate you, Mom. And I just didn't want to live anymore. And I ended up calling my crack dealer and asking him to take me to detox. He was telling me like, you're getting reckless, to the point where I wasn't even welcome at the dope spot.
Right.
And so I went in there and I thought that I knew that everything that I needed to do that I did wrong last time, because it wasn't my first time to go into rehab. But this time, like, I was tired. I wanted to stop long before I ever did. I just didn't know that there was another way to live.
Right.
I was just tired. And I went into this rehab, and the memory of my daughter saying, "I hate you," is just replaying over and over. And I hate myself. I can't look anybody in the eye. I can't even look myself in the eye when I look in the mirror. And I just go in and I take it day by day. And I can remember um, seeing a poster on the wall saying addiction cannot live in a body of honesty. And I was like, okay, I can get with that. I didn't realize that honesty was more than just telling the truth.
Right.
Can I learn to live honestly? It's been gradual. It's been a gradual course over the years and doing the work that I do to realize that I deceive myself a lot.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
I'm not
that's ego.
honest
That's
with my
right. Ego does that. That's its defense mechanism, is deflection, and tell ourselves these stories and to rationalize things and make it right in our
Mhm.
head some way. I mean, that is all ego and it's all protection. That's why you starting to tap into inner child work, like, oh my goodness, to be able to see that. So you can stop beating yourself up when those things happen. It's because now you can see that, oh my gosh, it is coming from a place of love, but wait a second. Like, Big Susan here is in charge now and can do these things and take care of her.
Yeah. So I did the rehab, like the hospital rehab, the short little 23 days or whatever. And they were suggesting that I go to a treatment center, and I was like, I would do anything, but I won't do that.
Right.
And I lived in that place for a couple days.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember exactly what it was that someone said to me, but it was just like, I was telling myself a story of what this treatment center was going to look like. I pictured jail or like
Right.
prison or
Yeah.
something. Um, and it was just like, obviously, what you've been doing is not working. Can you just trust the professionals
Yeah.
here? And so I went to the treatment center and I did 9 months there. And when I was clean for 3 months, my boyfriend's sister um created a court case, so she had guardianship to be able to take them for medical and stuff like that. And we were sitting in court, and the judge asked about dad. And of course I was honest and I said, this is who he is, this is his number, this is his address. And he showed up. Not that court date, but a couple months later he showed up. And so my son went with him first, and a couple months after that my daughter went. And so I was in this treatment center alone and feeling like the whole reason that I was there just left.
Yeah.
And and that's when I accepted drug court, because I was scared of
Yeah.
what was inside. And I just needed to have some accountability. Um and so I did my best to stay in contact with them, writing them letters as often as I could and sending cards and like phone calls when I could. And of course it was never enough.
Yeah.
There's a hole in mom's heart when the kids are with her.
Yeah.
And I've got that hole in my heart right now because my 25-year-old son's not talking to me. And I've not met his youngest baby. But I have to realize that I was 40 with 4 years clean and working a program to even realize the resentments that I had towards my parents.
Yeah.
And just allowing him to have this process.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
And
hard, but it's
and
right
backing
what you
off
need to
and
do.
not trying to fix it is probably one of the most painful things that I've had to do.
Yeah.
Um, we've had some time together after I got clean, and like when I was clean 3 years, I moved to Oklahoma to start developing that relationship with them after I was able to stay clean for a while after being out of drug court. And was able to work and have an apartment and go to school and start to have some balance in my life. And then I came back to Oklahoma, and we had time together and we did things. And, you know, I don't know. I'm just in a very confused and painful spot with that relationship. But I believe fully that I haven't been brought this far to be dropped in my face.
No, no.
Yeah.
You're not given a story like that. Yeah, I believe that to the core of my being and my soul. Like, and you've already found so much purpose in your story and journey. And even if you weren't doing all of this other amazing work that we'll eventually get to, coming back to, so now, going back to the beginning of this, when you talked about like, I'm here with my daughter, spending time with my daughter, like, oh, now people get a little sense of how meaningful this actually is for you. Like on an entirely different level. This isn't just some trip to go see my daughter. Like this is healing. And the fact that you two have been able to mend this relationship is so inspiring, and to let people know that it is possible, and that, yes, your son, he's still dealing with some of his own wounds from that experience, right? Just like you are still healing from some of your stuff with your parents. And his journey is his journey. You can see how his ego is trying to protect the little boy within him. And that's hard 100%. When you are doing this work and you want to open your heart, and his ego just isn't quite there yet. Like it is incredibly painful to see that happen.
Oh,
yeah. Wow.
One of the most powerful things my daughter said to me, and I can't remember exactly how long ago it's been pretty much years ago. It's like, you're my hero, Mom. You have shown me that no matter how bad things get, you can always turn it around. And so I hang on to that. And, the bond that we have is again, something that I couldn't have even imagined the existence of to even hope for. There's a lot of things in my life like that. The relationship that I'm in, this guy that I'm about to marry, like I couldn't have dreamt him up.
Right? It's pretty.
I thought that I would always have to settle for something. Red flag goes off and it's like, well, I'm not ever going to fully get what I'm looking for. So I'm going to have to, I'm just going to have to settle with that. And ultimately the story of that is like, when I got to the place where I was comfortable with myself and stopped looking. He showed up. And he had done the work to work on healing himself. And that's not to say that, either one of us don't still get triggered, but we understand each other and we're able to have that communication and both own our part.
Well, and there's something so powerful about doing this work yourself, knowing like, I need to learn how to emotionally regulate myself, but at some point you do need to be able to learn how to co-regulate. And so much healing can happen within a relationship. It's not about being perfectly healed and then not having any issues ever. It's that, hey, when we do trigger each other, now we know how to actually communicate, support each other, work through that, make sure we're meeting each other's emotional needs, and continue to heal together.
Right.
And that's going to make for a powerful, lasting relationship. It's not when things are picture perfect, because they rarely are, even if that's what they seem.
Yep.
People are just really good at suppressing stuff. And
and I've got a lot of comparing my insides to other people's outsides.
Yeah.
Which never really gets me anywhere except a complete lack of joy and unsatisfaction with life, no fulfillment.
Right. Well, let's talk about that, because you had mentioned it, before we had hit record, of just in kind of where you're at on your journey now, and that, we're on the stage, we're at the peak of our fitness and things. And it's like, obviously with this surgery, that's changed things for you, and being able to be in the gym and all of those things. And like, how do I love myself through this and feel worthy, at this stage in this phase of my life?
So I would be lying if I said that I didn't get sucked back into that place.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's happening for a reason, right? Because to me, that's saying like there's a little bit more work to do here. This is
yeah,
not a step back. It's to
right,
me, it's pulling that arrow back so you can slingshot forward. Like there's just this little bit of like worthiness left that we got to work on so we can fly you forward. Like this is absolutely happening for you. Because again, you haven't come this far to only come this far.
right. So when did we hit the stage? Sometime in 22?
Yeah, I think it was August of
We did.
2022. Yep.
And so that was after my hysterectomy. I had to have a hysterectomy with anterior and posterior repair. So basically, the pelvic organ prolapse is when a piece of your pelvic organs, whether it's uterus, bladder, rectum, are either falling out or falling in. Um, and so I had this pelvic floor dysfunction because I had big babies. I wasn't doing Kegels. After I got clean, I gained a bunch of weight. And then when I started lifting, I lifted heavy without proper training of like really embracing my core. And then I did long distance running for like 10 miles every Saturday. And so like this
Yeah.
perfect storm happened where, uh, I ended up having to have a hysterectomy and 22 and immediately started rebounding with weight gain because my emotions were not my emotions too.
Yeah.
My emotions are all over the place. My hormones are all over the place. I'm gaining weight. And I stepped on the stage for Isabody in August of 22, a lot higher than I was. And I can remember being mortified at the one picture that they took of me on stage and just seeing that over and over in my mind. And just beating myself up because I wasn't in the place that I was when I had gotten the call, like this peak fitness place. And so basically what happened after that is I lived in the fear that if I go back to exercising after this surgery, I'm going to make it worse. And so I would hit here and there, but very inconsistent. And basically what happened with that is my food also went to crap. I'm an avid meal prepper and I've always said like, this is a non-negotiable.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then this stuff happens and it knocks me on my ass. And it's just like, all right, well, we'll just go out to eat. And, it's been like dominoes. And so I don't know. I'm in this place right now. I think when I was an Isabody finalist, I was around 165, I think, maybe something like that. And right now I'm at about 205. And I was kind of telling you before, like there are some days I can look in a window, like walking down the street and be just fine with
Yep.
my sassy self.
Yes.
And then there are some days when things
Yep.
don't fit right and I feel completely out of my body and there's no self-acceptance. And it's just like part of this spending time here with my baby is she's a personal trainer and she's trying to help me just get in the routine again of just showing up. Whether that looks like doing some yoga or some Pilates or whatever it needs to be right now, I'm showing up for myself again.
Yes.
I needed that.
This is so like, again, the universe sent little nuggets my way to prep for this call because I was going back to the gym and I was like looking at my phone as I was walking back in to go sauna today. And I saw this reel and this guy and I posted it. It's in my stories before this call. So this is proof that I didn't just make this up. The guy was like, set your ceiling, set your floor. The ceiling is that I get to go spend 2.5 hours at the gym and I can lift perfect and have the best session and I can sauna afterwards and I can do all these things. Or I've got 10 minutes, I can do 100 push-ups.
Yeah.
Like set your ceiling, set your floor. Just to show up. Because again, from an inner child perspective, that's all she needs. She just needs you to show up. She never wants to be perfect. She doesn't want to have to overextend herself when she's not feeling it. It's like, how can I support myself on the hardest days? Like it's easy to support yourself on your best days. It's easy to support yourself and love yourself when you fit into your jeans. It's easy when everything seems to be flowing. It's when everything is like falling apart and derailing. Like, how do I show up for myself then?
Yeah.
That's the lesson, right? And we're going to keep getting these little tests until we learn, like, how do I love myself unconditionally no matter what I'm going through, no matter how much I weigh, no matter what I look like, no matter how much money is in my bank account, how do I love myself unconditionally? And we are going to keep getting those little tests brought back. Come back. There's a little bit more of a lesson here for you until we learn that major lesson for all of us is that we need to learn to love ourselves unconditionally. And that's you acknowledging that and just being aware, like, hey, some days that self-acceptance is real hard, but I am finding ways, even if it's this tiny little glimmer, to find that because now you actually believe you're worthy of it. And that's hard. That's the hard work.
I think that part of it too, for a while for me, was like living on an image that I was portraying to other people.
Yes.
And like having those comments feed the part of my soul that I should be feeding
outside
myself.
validation feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. So just realizing that, I don't have to uphold an image for anyone else. And my value lies in being myself, whatever that is in this current state, in this current moment, on this current day.
And that is the most beautiful gift you can give anyone. And you give that gift to so many people, not just your daughter, but to people like me who see you just showing up, being authentic. Because who can resonate with someone who's perfect and has it all together all the time? When I did this, I talked about the presentation I did last week on the intro with these realtors, and a woman scheduled a call with me because I mentioned that I've eaten entire pizzas in my car. I asked her, like, what made you want to reach out? And she's like, because you said that you eat entire pizzas in your car.
Because that I can relate to.
Right. That's exactly what she said. She's like, because I looked at you standing up there and I thought, oh, she's got it all together. She's perfect. She doesn't never had to worry. She's like, when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, she gets it. And she's done the work to obviously get here. So our superpower is our vulnerability. It is showing our humanness. It is showing this cycle. And that sometimes, we go back, but here's how I stay rooted and grounded in my belief and my faith and that I am worthy. Like that's what people need to see. And that's why you are such an incredible inspiration to all of the people that follow you, but the people that you support. Because we haven't even talked about that. I know you got a low battery, but like, holy crap, that's a huge part of your story is that you are impacting so many people's lives, helping them through this recovery process, being their cheerleader, being that role model, being that hero, not just for your daughter, but for these other people, but most importantly, for your inner child. Like I see little Susan being so fucking proud of you for the way that you show up and the way that you have done this work. Like seriously, obviously you brought me to a whole lot of tears where I had snot running down my face. So like that is the goal.
So one of the most beautiful lines in our literature that I love so much is that our experiences become a gold mine to help other people.
Yes.
So everything that I've been through, everything that I go through, it all becomes just this little gold chunk to go in the gold mine because I never know when I'm going to be called to share that with someone else to help them get through a dark time.
100%. And that's like when you find the gift in your painful package, like then you get to share it. And that's what you have done so beautifully. And if I would encourage anyone to go follow you on Facebook. Do you do most of your posting on Facebook or some on Instagram?
I do a little bit of both. I think I typically post on Facebook and it pulls it over to Instagram too. I don't spend a lot of time on social just because I can get sucked into like.
Oh, heck yeah. There's boundaries around that. But I'm just saying like if people like need to just be in your energy and the work that you're doing and just when people post on your walls and the way that you're impacting them, like you were given your story for a reason. And it's so beautiful to see you doing that work. God, like I didn't give you that story just like you said to fall on your face and for you to suffer your whole life. I gave it because I got a big old purpose for you.
So with that being said, I just want to say, so I don't get cut out before the battery dies, if there's somebody that's watching this podcast that what I've said you identify with or resonates with you, definitely find me on Facebook, send me a message. I'm here to talk. I'm here to listen. I'm here to support. I'm here to share my experience because one of the biggest things that I have realized in life is like, as much as I wanted to prove that I could be self-sufficient, I could not. It was a lie. I need other people. I need relationships. and just being in that place where I can connect, look another human in the eye, feel worthy of being in their presence, whether it's a stranger on the beach that I'm talking to for the day or someone I don't even know. The ego before would shut it down. Like, what do they want from you? You're not talking to them. Don't engage. And that's totally not where I'm at today, because I have met a lot of amazing people that I've been able to share just a little bit with, that I don't even realize in the moment how it gets carried with them. And you've done that for me. So thank you. You inspire me. And, there's a lot of things that you post that has opened my eyes, just like to some of the signs that are around me, just like being more aware, and ultimately coming to a belief for myself.
Yeah. Yes. And that's just it, is like, I can post things, but it's up to you to interpret how that is going to resonate with you and what you're going to do with it and how you're going to interpret that. But that's by like me showing up as me doing that has allowed you to find aspects of you and what resonates with you. And that's the power. And that is the beauty of us all just being who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you will find your people. And sure, there are going to be people that aren't for you, but they're not for you, like bless and release. But it's those little moments of connection, like you talked about, like just connecting with someone on the beach, making eye contact, smiling, giving a compliment when they, like, it's little moments of connection like that can literally, change someone's life. It's not an exaggeration to say that. So
You remember when we were in the car, in the back of my daughter's car in Orlando, we were
never
singing
forget
Salt
that
and Pepper?
ever.
You should go back to that video and look at my face. It's incredible for me to look back at things, because I can look back at that and see that there was a little Susie inside of me that was looking to you for come on, you're okay. This part of you can come out. I could see that when I watched that video again.
Oh,
So thank you for creating that space for me. It's something that I strive to be able to connect with more often, being on that playful, giddy little girl side. I still struggle with doing that.
well, you never got a chance to be the little girl.
Yeah.
You never got that chance. And so that's why it is so important for you to do those things like that for her, to play, to have fun, to laugh. Like she missed out on that.
Yeah.
And so again, such a beautiful example of by me tapping in and doing that, it gave you permission to do that. And look at the ripple effect. And now you're helping people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we all are just truly who we are and tapping into the things that bring us joy, it's that overflow that then impacts people rather than us tipping over the vase and depleting ourselves. And you just do that so beautifully. And I feel like, oh, man, we should have totally planned a jam session to Shoop. You guys, we nailed that song.
Yeah.
Was it Shoop or was it None of Your Business? It could have been all
It was
of them.
none of your business.
Oh,
I think it was none of your business.
Oh, I freaking love that song, especially when it goes into the legit talk at the end.
Yeah.
The moral of this story is, who are you to judge? There's only one true judge, and that's God.
That's God.
So
So
chill. Let my father do his job. On that note, that's a beautiful way to wrap this up.
Yeah, man. I'm wrapping this up. Sydney got me an hour and a half massage today with her client, who is also an energy worker. So I don't know what's about to happen.
Well, did not this just work out totally perfect and divine? You guys, I literally just messaged her, what was yesterday?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I can hop on. And now this will be such a beautiful way to ground this energy and how healing and how heard your inner child feels right now. And just, I know anyone listening to this is sending you and your inner child so much love. So much love.
I love you big.
Oh, right back at you. And we have to figure out another time to reconnect and in person. Maybe I'll crash your wedding.
Listen, can you please? I'll send you the details.
October 20th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
goodness. That would be amazing.
Oh, I know it's going to be everything that you deserve.
Thank you.
And because you are so worthy and so beautiful, and yeah, you're worthy of it all. So thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story and just the love that you put out into the world. It's truly amazing. And I know this is like, you've been through so much. There was one point you said, well, I got married at 16. I'm like, wait, how old were you the rest of the part of the story? And then it was like, but at the same time, it feels like your story is just unfolding. Like this is the next most exciting chapter. Like to go through and read your story, like, holy crap, like what a page turner. But now, I was looking at the clock. I'm like, oh, I thought it was like, it was 1:11 on my clock, but it wasn't the actual clock. It's my timer. I forgot what I was saying. Shoot.
My story is such a page turner, and now this is the best chapter.
Yes. Like this is where it gets good. And this is like that feel good part of the story. And there has been moments of that, right? But like this is where it feels like the fairy tale is coming. And I remember talking about other Sue, when she talked about her story and, being more in abusive relationships and being the people pleaser. And she recently just got married, and it was like this fairy tale experience. That. Yeah. And it's just like, yes, like we do this work. There is a purpose to it. Like but you have to have that anchor in your faith that you are being put through this because there is something better on the other side. And this is the
embrace
something on
the
the other
suck.
side for you. Yes. Yeah. Embrace the suck because there's for a reason.
Yes.
Oh, you are going to be such a beautiful bride. And yeah, if I don't crash the wedding, I will absolutely be there.
I will send you the invite just in case you want to and can make it work.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right.
Like, how can I plan this? How can I make this happen? I haven't been to Oklahoma. Okay. This could, whoa. Oh, I don't know what just happened here, but I might be planning a road trip.
We'll see.
We will see. All right. Well, I will let you go because I know your battery is going to die.
All right.
But again, thank you so much. And I hope you have the most amazing time left with your daughter. And I know there's going to be healing there for you and your son as well. Just doing your healing work, and it will run over into him too. And
I believe that 100%.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you are such an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Until next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.